take USA back. And every time we pull up, all you're gonna see is American flags. American flags. American flags. And every time we pull up, all you're gonna see is American.
Podcast where we dive deep into the pressing issues affecting our nation's heart and soul. Today we find ourselves at a crucial juncture, confronting a troubling rise in anti-Semitism that echoes the darkest chapters of our history, now manifesting across college campuses everywhere. Alarmingly, this wave of hatred is not merely an isolated phenomenon, but of a broader cultural shift that warrants our immediate attention and action. Now, in today's episode, we question the eerie silence and troubling inaction that pervades our institutions and political arenas as Jewish students and communities face increasing hostility. The resurgence of anti-Semitism is partially concerning, especially when comparing to the robust and immediate responses to other significant racial and social justice movements. Recall the nationwide upheaval following the tragic events of 2020. The names George Floyd and Breonna Taylor ignited massive protests advocating for systematic change. These movements reshaped the public discourse and policy, demonstrating the power of collective action in confronting injustice. So, guys, we're going to go ahead and then pull you up and get started. I would typically finish that, but Eddie made a mistake. You know, mark it up on the calendar. That was not the right monologue. What I was getting ready to say, but it still fit the cusp of the show. However, you know, there was getting ready to be some things said because that was off the top that I probably shouldn't say. While I'm streaming to YouTube, my mind went, nah, YouTube is not going to like that. So
how about that?
But it essentially went like this. And first of all, let me just say this. Welcome my co-host, Native Patriot, otherwise known as Maurice. And we have a special guest with us, Alexandra Levine. But yes, imagine that after the 2020 riots that took place by following the George Floyd and Breonna Taylors and the Jacob Blakes, and how people all took to the streets and how it was all about racial equity and about standing up against racism. Meanwhile, they're having all these anti-Semitic gang rallies supported by political office holders today that are members of both the DSA and some who even have bodyguards that are literally in the PLO, like Rashida Tlaib. And, you know, though they echo the sentiment that those on the college campuses should be held accountable, like the AOC's comments yesterday, today they're at the college campuses standing with the anti-Israeli protesters that did not concede to the timelines given to them by authorities for them to vacate. So they're saying both things at the same time. So watch their actions. They're not being honest. They are exactly who you think they are. Just look at what happened at January the 6th, how they politically persecuted all of those people. Our friend, the lectern guy, Adam, and many others that were politically persecuted just for simply being there. And then there are some people that were there following the comments made by Rashida Tlaib about a bombing of a hospital in Gaza, which turned out to be the Hamas doing it themselves. And even after she knew that that was the case, she went public and on a speech, she grandstanded and said Israel was at fault for this. And then they stormed the Capitol with a group called Jews for Peace. And yet,
take a breath, Eddie. Holy cow. You are just going to town.
I know
you're not wrong. But just take a breath for a second. Take a breath for a second. Alexandra, how are you? Welcome to the Patriots Prayer podcast. Eddie can just keep going and going and going. So, who are you? What do you do?
Thanks so much for having me again. So my name is Alexandra Levine. I'm a Jewish liaison. I'm actually a national faith leader for President Trump. I was on every single conference call in regards to faith, and I was actually on every conference call when the Abraham Accords were coming to fruition with former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, Rick Grenell, Peter Navarro, and so forth. And I currently work with an organization called Jexit Inc., which stands for Jews Jexiting the Democratic Party, and also combats antisemitism, the persecution of Christians and minorities. I know what's going on. I have like this thing, and like my teeth are getting all white.
You're all right. You're okay. They know.
Is that okay? Okay, it's like an electronic.
Yeah. But she's being modest, though. She's being modest. There's more to her.
Yeah, there's more to me.
I would like people to understand what your roots are in Israel and who your people were. Go ahead.
So my roots, and thank you for bringing that up, Eddie. So I'm actually a direct descendant of our Prime Minister of Israel, Moshe Shadat, who was the second Prime Minister of Israel, the first Foreign Minister of Israel, is my relative, my direct descendant. And Moshe Sachar was the first mayor of Tiberias, and I'm related to him through marriage. So I have a lot of ties to Israel through the Prime Ministry, through the president, through the IDF, through Shin Bet, and so forth. And I still communicate with a lot of people in the IDF today. I do communicate with the Prime Minister of Israel. I've actually written resolutions for different central committees in the Maryland area, in the DMV area, to support Israel and condemn Hamas. I recently testified in Annapolis at the Annapolis State House to remove CARE from the Anti-Hate Commission, which I won. That bill actually passed unanimously with the state delegates and the state senators. So right now, as of October 2024, CARE will not be on the Anti-Hate Commission. And as of June of 2027, there will no longer be an Anti-Hate Commission permanently. So what they did is they removed all of the religious denominations. And what they did instead is they put in law enforcement a part of that Anti-Hate Commission, which is what they should have had before. Because now we don't have this rift where it's Jews are better than Muslims, Muslims are better than Jews, Christians are better than Jews. It's no religions anymore, no religious affiliations anymore, no terrorist organizations on this Anti-Hate Commission, and it's strictly law enforcement, which is what it should be. It should have always been that way. And, I'm currently fighting, against the establishment in Maryland, and I only personally work with America First candidates, America First people that support President Trump, people that have endorsed President Trump, because regardless of if you're Jewish, if you're gay, if you're Black, if you're a minority, we all know that the current administration is hurting our nation. And we know that under President Trump, our nation was in a much better situation. And we know that if President Trump gets back into that White House with his beautiful wife, that I know in my heart that things will be better. Everybody knows that things will be better. And I'm starting to see a lot of minorities actually switch parties, and they're now going to be voting for President Trump in the general because they've had enough.
I think things will even be better for those who are Jewish, Black, gay, females too.
Yeah. Yes, I agree with that. And the thing with Brexit, with my organization, is we were astronomical in getting more Jews to cross the aisle to either switch parties to Republican or just vote for Trump in the general. I worked with Governor DeSantis down in Florida. We got 35% of the Jewish vote for him in 2018. We got a 10% increase for him in 2022 in his reelection campaign. And then we got a 5.1% increase in the Jewish vote for President Trump nationwide from 2016 to 2020. So you're going to start to see, especially because of the aftermath of October 7th, that you're going to start to see more Jewish people wake up and either switch parties or they're going to vote for Trump in the general. And that's what needs to happen, because Joe Biden is the reason why October 7th happened. And he's the reason why all of these pro-Hamas groups are on college campuses right now.
That's right. That's right. You back all the Marxist uprisings that led up to this. They were the catalyst for all of these things happening. Cashless bail. We're raising funds to allow them, and then they denied it later. Oh, we didn't raise funds to get all these people out after the Floyd riots. They absolutely did. They were the reason they're happening. And then it was just kind of music to my ears to see all of those same people who they enabled and condoned and exacerbating, throwing gasoline on the fire, end up at the White House gates, threatening Secret Service, vandalizing our monuments and statues in the Capitol, and the National Guard did not come. Like, why? I mean, it makes no sense to me that they were in front of the White House where the president was at the time, threatening the Secret Service. And these were all Democrats. These are all leftists. And yet nothing happened. To this day, nothing has happened.
Are you talking about May 29th, 2020? Is that,
if you remember
the date you're referencing?
No. This was just what just now happened.
Oh, okay, just recently.
Yeah, they were just at the White House gates, shaking the gates and yelling at Secret Service, who was telling them basically to disperse and leave. And they climbed the monuments there in D.C. and put Palestinian flags on top of our monuments. And to me,
that's disgraceful.
Yeah, I mean, they did. And all the Americans who stood by as that happened and did nothing, you're all a bunch of pussies. I'm sorry to say it like that, but that's exactly how I feel. If I were there, you would have had to kill me. That's exactly how I feel. And anyone who let that happen, you know, I had someone tell me one time, like, well, if things happen where the two sides of the country end up clashing, what would you do? And I said, I would fight for my country. He said, against your countrymen? I said, these people are not my countrymen. You know, these people are not my countrymen. These people that are
kind of American are you?
Yeah,
in the new
exactly.
Civil War movie.
Are you American or are you Democrat? That is essentially the sentiment.
Yeah, well, I mean, these Marxists tearing things up right now are the same ones who were doing BLM, who were chanting BLM back in 2020. It's the same exact crowd, and there's, I mean, they may be a little bit older, they may be a little bit younger, they may have recruited some new young ones, but it's the same crowd, and it's almost the same playbook. They're just shouting different sounds and waving different flags. But I mean, they're raising the Palestinian flag now. Before, they're raising the what is it called? The red salute, the communist fist, the Black Lives Matter fist. Yeah, that's the red salute of communism. So it's the same crowd. I think they're just hiding under a different kind of rhetoric, but it seems like the plan. I mean, if this continues on, which I don't see it stopping, because the left and the Democrats have kind of created this Marxist hate group that is vehemently anti-American. They're anti-Jewish. They're anti. I mean, I don't even know if they know all what they're against, but they're really good at rioting and creating some problems around the country for us.
I'd be interested in knowing what they're for. Like, I understand everything like they're against, but you know, what if you give them everything they want? I mean, what would they do with it? That's the question. There's nothing that they're for. They never tell you what their goal is.
Yeah, it's true. And I can tell you one of the biggest reasons why we have such uprising of these pro-Hamas groups. So after October 7th, George Soros and all the socialist, communist, Marxist, globalist elitists, they knew that Prime Minister Netanyahu was going to retaliate, because the prime minister can't just sit by and watch his people get murdered and burned and tortured and not do anything about it. Israel is winning the war in Gaza. Israel will win the war. If Israel has to fight against Hezbollah and kill them all, they will. If Israel has to go in and annihilate Iran and kill all the terrorists in Iran, they will. And George Soros knows this. So what George Soros did is he said, well, let's find a way how we can infiltrate a weak government. So what is a weak government right now? The United States of America, because the Biden administration is very weak. So what he did, what George Soros does, is they infiltrate weak governments, like, for example, the United States of America, and they intimidate us. They force us to live in fear until we give in. This is how socialism starts. And what I have been advocating for is, if we give in, if we allow George Soros to win and we do nothing, then we're complicit in this. And the more that we don't stand up and fight, the more that we don't combat this, the pro-Hamas groups are just going to take over. The goal of these terrorist organizations is to take over the world. Not just America, but to take over the world. But they start with the weak governments first. The goal of George Soros is to annihilate our Constitution and to push these globalist, Marxist, communist, elitist, what I say, ideals into our system so that everybody looks the same, everybody dresses the same, everybody has the same income, the same health care. It's Nazi Germany all over again. That's what it is. So George Soros was following the Hitler playbook, basically, and many other terrorists' playbook. And of course, they're going to start with the Jews first. They're going to start with the children, the weak and the feeble, just like Hitler did. So it's a repeat. It's a complete repeat. And we as Americans, we're seeing this history repeating itself. We as Americans, under the Constitution of the United States, have the right as civilians to combat this, to take bare arms. We have a Second Amendment, and we as Americans need to fight this every single day. We need to form bigger groups than these Hamas people, which I know we can do, and combat this. Because again, if we sit back and we do nothing or we ignore it, it's just going to get worse. And that's what I'm pushing. That is what I'm fighting for. I have called for massive Jewish groups and massive Christian groups to work together to go on these college campuses and to combat the SJPs and the CARES and the Muslim Brotherhoods and the Jewish Voices for Peace, all these anti-Semitic groups. We need to fight this. And I'm glad that you said that if you were in DC, you would have combated this. I'm an NYU alumni. I fought BDS. I combated BDS. I went with 3 other people and we talked to these idiots that were spewing out or pushing out propaganda against Bibi Netanyahu and the Jews. And I literally took their flyers and I ripped them up and I threw them all in the trash. And I removed BDS that day. And not just that day, but I got them off campus for years. And that's what we need more of. We need more people to do what I did and to rally with me and to work with me to combat this, because we can't stand by. Again, if I was a Columbia University student today, I would have never left the campus. I would have stood my ground. I would have said, I am not leaving. My parents have paid for this tuition. I'm a Jew. I should not have to leave because I'm a Jew, and I'm not going to do remote learning. And I would have stood my ground. I really don't like the fact that the Columbia University students left and were complicit in leaving. They should have stood their ground. And the fact that the Columbia president, they're calling for her resignation. No, she should be removed, fired, no income, cut off. And that's why Harvard University is going through this crap again, because they didn't permanently remove Dr. Claudine Gay. They had her step down and resign. She still is under payroll at Harvard University, causing havoc in her classroom.
But the problem with it is that the civil rights movement actually has legislation built into it to actually combat this kind of hate speech and this kind of rhetoric on college campuses, because they are precluding a specific race of people from being able to be on campus and preventing them from being able to get to class.
And thank you for calling it hate speech, because everyone's calling this freedom of speech. This is not freedom of speech. When someone tells you to go die, when someone tells you to go burn in the oven, when somebody says death to Jews, death to America, that is hate speech. That is causing violence. That is a personal threat. Those people should be in jail. This is not freedom of speech. Not at all. Freedom of speech is out the window at this point.
Well, and there's also many members of the protest claiming to be Hamas, or at least supporting Hamas as well.
Yep.
Well, a lot of them
I've seen that plenty.
Were Hamas militants. A lot of their parents actually worked with Hamas. So when they say, yes, we work with Hamas or we're involved with Hamas, that's actually true, because their parents were former Hamas militants.
Well, let me just say this, because I've said it before, and most of these people have all heard me say it, and I'm going to say it again. There is no distinction. After October the 7th, there is no distinction between the Palestinians and Hamas. They are duly elected officials of the Palestinian people. They were the same ones who cheered after 9/11. They took part in what happened on October the 7th. It wasn't just Hamas. It was Palestinian people as well. And the people who spit on that young girl after she was raped and murdered in the street and drugged through the streets, those people in that video you saw spitting on her were all Palestinians. All those children who are indoctrinated to hate Jews from birth, from the time they go to their first lesson in school, are all Palestinians. So you explain to me where the innocence is in any of that. If you can get a child that's young enough and expose them to reality and reteach them, get them away from this indoctrination, maybe. But when you get someone who's been indoctrinated their whole lives, all the way up to 16, 17, 18 years old, every day they live and breathe hate. I'm
Yep.
sorry, I don't see how you fix that. I don't.
That has to do with education. That has to do with proper education, educating people on the people, educating people on the history of Israel. There is no Palestine. To call them Palestinians, it's a faux
Thank
pas
you.
because there's no such thing as Palestine. There's
It does
no
not
such thing.
exist.
It doesn't exist. And again, that's
Historically,
education. And I've pushed and advocated for full Holocaust and Israel education in all schools in all 50 states, K through 12. I've advocated for that. That is my life's work.
And maybe you can tell me, Alexandra, what year, what decade, what time throughout human history, from the time it was Canaan to modern day Israel, at what point was it ever considered Palestine? What year was it?
It was, I mean, it was always called, like you said, the land of Canaan, the land of milk and honey. They considered it actually a territory. It was a territory. It wasn't never. It was never a state. It
But
didn't.
the term Syria de Palestina came after the Roman emperor did not want the land called Judea anymore.
Right.
And so he changed the name. And then later, as a nickname, as a way to say the name shorter, they went to Palestine. Now,
Correct.
but
That
at the
is
time,
correct.
it
And
was
Golda
never
Meir actually said it. She said, before she became the prime minister, she said, my passport said Palestine, Palestinia. So you're correct on that.
right. So, and she also said, when the Arabs love their children more than they hate the Jews, we'll have peace. That was exactly what Goldie Meir said.
Yeah.
And so when you look at this, the fact they were offered statehood 7 different times.
Yep.
And 90% of the land in the West Bank was offered back to them, except for the 10% that would have left the Jews vulnerable to attack. And they said, this is the portion of the land you can't have. And in the fact that when they attacked Israel, they attacked mainland Israel. There is no occupation. Israel abandoned Gaza in 2005. So,
and to be honest with you, that was a big mistake. And Bibi Netanyahu was the only one in the Knesset at the time that voted no, because he knew that it was going to open up the vacuum for Hamas. And
yeah, because the PLA is not much better, and they turned it into.
They're weak, and Netanyahu knew that Mahmoud Abbas was weak, and he knew that it was going to open up the vacuum for Hamas if the Jews left Gaza.
Wow, it's amazing to me that on our learner universities, campuses today, that college professors whom know all of these things all very well intentionally overlook them in favor of their agendas, because they're not doing it. Yeah, they're not doing it because it's true.
Yeah, the terrorist organizations are paying these universities, and that's why they're turning a blind eye.
Maurice and I,
China.
Maurice, exactly. Maurice and I was telling you the other day, we're doing this story about Utah. They had a high school called Redmond. Turns out the school board was taking orders from SUU in league that has people that are on the board there that are also involved with the Helen Foster Foundation. And a quick look, those that want to fact check me, go look at the Helen Foster Foundation's website. What you will see is that it's literally the Confucius Foundation. And they just changed the name, continued the same work. And from that organization to the college, all the way down to the school boards, started the cultural cleansing. And it gets worse than that, because then they started paying people from within the Native community to advocate for their own erasure. And they literally have been doing it. And that's what's crazy about it. And this reminds me of the Jews for Peace movement.
Well, before you move on really quick, they named the high school the Reds, which is just another name for communists, which is weird. But yeah, it used to be Red Men and have just Native American iconography, and now it's the Reds.
Just like the Redskins, right? Now they're called the commies, the Commanders, commies, right? It's the same thing. Same thing. You know, it's it is not a coincidence.
But I wanted to make a note for your audience. So these are lists of colleges with Gaza encampments. So if you see that on YouTube,
like autonomous zones.
Yeah, they're called Gaza encampments, but they are autonomous zones. So these are the colleges that have these Gaza encampments. Number one, of course, is Columbia University, NYU, Yale, Emerson College, MIT, Tufts University, the University of Michigan, which is Rashida Tlaib's territory, Vanderbilt University, California State Polytech University, University of California, University of Minnesota, that's Ilhan Omar's territory, University of North Carolina, the New School in New York, Brown University, University of Pittsburgh, and USC, University of Southern California. So these universities have colleges with Gaza encampments. Now, I went to Harvard University. I took some courses there. I was part of the Harvard Hillel. I got an email today from Harvard Hillel, and they said, yes, we are aware of the Gaza encampments. Just to let you know, no havoc yet has been caused no havoc has been done to Jewish students, but we are, quote, keeping an eye on it, and we'll let you know if anything happens. But just to let you know, we are so proud of our, Jewish students for, not inciting violence on this, and thank you to them for celebrating the Seder at Harvard Hillel, and we're monitoring the entire situation. So basically that means that they're waiting for something traumatic to happen, and then then they'll make a stink about it. They're not going to do anything about it, but that's the sick part, is the fact that they have Gaza encampments in the schools on campus at all is disgusting. They shouldn't even have them, period. And then they're going to wait till they cause havoc to the Jewish students again. Leave the Jews alone. Leave us alone. We have suffered enough. This is our Passover. We are going from Passover is all about the Jews running from slavery to freedom, and now the Jews are trying to get their freedom again. This is disgusting. The fact that history is repeating itself, it's disgusting that Jews have to hide who they are, and we have to be in fear of our lives. This is the United States of America. This is not World War II. Stop making it World War II.
I call them. Go ahead.
Are any of those schools allowed to carry guns, or is like all universities you're not allowed to?
You're not allowed to. You're not allowed to. But my congressman, who I love, Congressman Greg Steube down in Sarasota, Florida, he believes in getting rid of gun-free zones. He believes that students and teachers should have the right to carry on college campuses and elementary and middle school and high schools. I agree with him 100% on that.
Yeah, it's constitutional. I don't see how you can declare autonomy from the Constitution that's because you walked into a specific square of geography. Listen, at the
end of the day, they're just signs. So
exactly. And if I call on all people with common sense, I call on everyone who actually loves their country, who does not like the Nazi ideology rebranded or however else. I call on every one of you, because you outnumber these people 10 to 1. Yeah. If you show up where they are, and if you show up in that much force, I mean, walk out of your house, walk down the block in force, your whole family, all your friends, friends, you just leave the house and you go. And when they see people like the grain of sand coming at them and realize how outnumbered they are, this is over.
Yeah,
it's
and
over.
That's what I've been advocating for. Like, I just came back from Massachusetts with my family because I was spending Passover in Massachusetts. I have family in Worcester, and we drove through Yale. We drove through NYU. We drove through Columbia University. I actually drove and heard in real time Speaker Johnson at Columbia University, and I said to my relatives, "Let's stop by. Like, let's go on campus. Like, let's do something. Let's combat this." And like, no, like, we don't want to do it. We don't want to get involved. And I'm just like, that's the problem. That's the problem. They're afraid. We cannot be afraid. Like, again, I would, if I'm a student at Columbia University right now or NYU, I would stand my ground. I would not leave campus. I would get hordes and hundreds and thousands of people surrounding me to combat this crap. And you're right, Eddie. It is the minority trying to be the majority. 84% of Americans support Israel. I want those 84% I want those 84% to come out and stand with Israel and combat this. We need to combat this. We cannot turn a blind eye, and we cannot be afraid, and we cannot be complicit either.
Yes, exactly. You can't turn a blind. No, everyone. Later in life, people are going to ask you, "Hey, where were you at when this happened? What were you doing? And what part of history are you going to come down on? Are you going to be the people that say I stood against it, or are you going to say I watched it on TV and this is what happened and how it?" Our complicitness is in line with our silence. If you are silent right now, you are complicit. If you're hoping someone else does something, you are complicit. It's not time right now for you to be at home looking at it on NBC, ABC, CBS, Fox, or whatever else, and then just saying you stand with people, ideologically. That's not what it's saying. The left is not standing with people ideologically. They're out there. They're actually in the streets. Yeah. They're actually doing something, carrying signs. They're doing something. What is it going to take? What is the catalyst? What are you going to have your TV cut off, your phones taken away, your jobs taken away, where you have absolutely no ability, you have nothing left, and then you'll fight? Is that what it's going to take before you actually fight? Because that's what I'm starting to believe. I'm starting to believe that the people in America need to have all their creature comfort.
Well, somebody said to me, if we have an October 7th, God forbid, here in America, maybe people would wake up. I hope to God that never happens. I hope to God
I don't
that
think
never
so.
happens. But I mean, again, if you're complicit and you don't do anything and you turn a blind eye.
Her phone died.
Yeah, it'll come right back.
There's a large.
What I say to my Christian brothers and sisters is, when it happens to Jews, it's going to happen to you too. So, yes, they're coming for the Jews, but they're coming for you too. So that's why my Christian brothers and sisters need to stand with me on this, because they are coming for them. And they were Christians that were abducted by Hamas and are still hostages in Gaza with Hamas today.
Mm-hmm. And Americans and Filipinos and all kinds of other different races were abducted, and with the help of the UN. Let's just call it what it is. UNRWA pulled up in with SUVs and were throwing hostages in the back seats. So and CNN reporters were there working with them all the way up in the days prior, and then all of a sudden those stories go away. And why? Because the media, the propaganda artists, don't report on it after the fact. That's why. Because it's terrible. And I'm sorry, in that case, once again, silence is complicitness. This is the same CNN who got caught saying that, yeah, we know that what we're reporting about the election, about the Russian hoax, is a lie. We know. James O'Keefe did the piece, and it got caught saying, we know, but it's good for ratings. They still have their FCC license. Now they have a reporter over there driving around with Hamas, with the Palestinians in the days prior, that as they're planning all of these things, and yet he disappears after the fact, but he's there to record it. If you're there to record it and you're riding with them with your camera in tow, you know what they're going to do, and you didn't report it. You know what that makes you? A terrorist. And a terrorist that works for a news organization that reports the news here in the United States, and yet they still haven't been held accountable. Why? Because the Communist News Network is the propaganda arm of the Democratic Party, and along with most of the other news agencies.
And what's also scary, Eddie, because I do work with a lot of candidates, but we also have to be careful who is running for office and who is currently in office, because unfortunately we are getting a lot of plants that are trying to run for federal office on the Republican side, actually. And we really need to vet these candidates. And there's, people in Maryland that I've seen that are spewing out anti-Semitic rhetoric, and they're running for office. They're running for federal office, and they need to be called out. And we people need to make sure that those people don't enter office, because
I will say
they're going to spew out their hate as well, and they're going to be complicit with the terrorists and work with them behind our backs.
Yeah, there is a substantial portion of the right wing that is very anti-Jewish as well.
That is
so
true.
this is and I've noticed that
what we call alt-right. Right.
Yeah, like the Nick
well, it's becoming the world. I think it's gone past just the alt right. It's there's a mainstream portion of the right wing that is anti-Jewish, because they believe that they're in like the Illuminati, or they're the ones behind the scenes causing all the chaos. And
that's what they're referring to as a Zionism. They have a complete misconception of what Zionism is. We had a guest on our show the other night, and bless her soul, she was through a lot, but I think she was conflating that same exact issue. I think she was conflating Zionism with the actions of another side of the Jewish cabal, which is like your Jews for peace and others, right?
Yeah. So there's a couple times like where I'll go on my own personal live and just talk to my followers and stuff, and there are some times where I'm like, hey, let's not make this like a anti-Jew or anything. It's just like I'm anti-corruption. Like if you're a bad person in a position of power doing bad things, then I'm going to oppose you. If you happen to be Jewish or black or white, like I don't care what color you are. I It's like the content of characters what I've always what I've always thought was true. And so, on these college campuses where the kids where the Jewish kids are getting attacked, I mean that's blatantly wrong. It doesn't matter what side of the aisle that you fall on, whether you don't like Jews or not, once we give that up, the freedom of religion up, our country's doomed, because then it'll be tribal factions fighting tribal factions to the point where it'll be Muslims versus the Jews and then Christians versus, the Muslims as well. And I mean, it would break out into chaos. And then you'd have atheists, or Marxists rather, believing that they don't believe in God, but they just believe that government's God. So, I mean, it would just be a complete breakdown of our culture entirely. So we need to preserve, if not for anything other than just preserving America, standing up for the Jews on campuses who are being targeted right now for simply being Jewish is a must.
Yeah, but these are the same people that are anti-racist and keep in mind, there were members of the
Right.
BLM who came out immediately after this and put an ad out showing someone parachuting and to be in solidarity.
Oh, yeah.
So now you lost all of your moral high ground as far as being an organization that fights racism when you stand with an organization who calls for the extermination of an entire race. Like, you're done. You've actually, the mask is off. We see you for exactly who you are. You're Satan, and that's the reality of it.
Yeah, and again, we have unfortunately congressmen and women that are complicit in this. Ilhan Omar, Rashid Tlaib, the Squad, Bernie Sanders. These people need to be removed from office. Why are they told the next election where they're going to cheat to stay in? That's why we need term limits too. But we need to remove these people from office, these people that side with the terrorists. When you are in federal office, when you are when you're part of the House of Representatives and you are a United States Senator, the biggest thing when you take that oath is you must work with your biggest ally, Israel. You must. And if you don't, you need to be removed. You do not enter office if you're going to go against your biggest ally, Israel. It goes against the oath.
Well, they were also waving flags. They were waving Ukrainian flags the other day. So it's become like
Ukraine first. It's like insane.
Yeah.
It's insane. You should have an Israeli flag next to an American flag, because again, Israel and America, the treaty in 1948, where former President Harry Truman, he acknowledged that Israel is a state. That is history. That's history that's being destroyed. So they're saying, well, it's not Israel anymore. That's not our ally. Gaza's our ally now. Hezbollah's our ally now. Ukraine's our ally.
We've had so many people, and it's a faction of the left that is convinced. This is the weirdest thing to me. They've convinced Native Americans that Gaza is just like Native Americans. And I truly don't understand that. I don't understand it in any way, shape, or form. I've tried to. It's like, they're genociding the people in Gaza. And it's like, well, I mean, it's a war. It is so hard for me to figure out exactly what's going on over there, because it's been complicated for a long time. But one thing I do know is that all the people in Gaza aren't all innocent. And it's not just like, I don't know. It's kind of tough to say, but there's no comparison between the Gaza, or what Gaza is today, and what Native Americans went through back in the 1700s. There's just I don't see the comparison, but there's quite a few Native Americans who believe that. And so, but I just see it as an emotional tool from the Marxists to convince people of color to be on their side. So they say it's just like what happened to the Native Americans, so why don't you join us? And it's like, well, you're just a stupid commie. So
again,
no.
The Gazans or the Arabs or the Palestinians, whatever you want to call them, they had a choice. They had an election. It was either vote for Hamas or vote for Mahmoud Abbas, vote for the PLO. 75% of them voted for Hamas. It is on them. It is on them. And
Well,
that's what
I would say, I mean, I don't want to be blamed for having Joe Biden as our president, right? That's it. That's the only thing I'll say to that is like, I don't know how corrupt their system is. It probably isn't super fair. So, in the interest of, there does need to be some preservation of life. But the thing is that even the aid, I mean, one of the government officials, in came out the other day and said that, yeah, Hamas is taking the aid that you guys are sending here to Gaza and
Of
using it
course
first.
they are.
Right, that's the
Yeah.
point. Yeah, that is
Yeah.
the point. So in that Israel package that was part of the $95 billion that was just passed, 60% of that went to Gaza. But we know that it's not going to, the Gazans, it's going straight to Hamas. And I want to say for the record is that Israel has been giving humanitarian aid to Gaza after the aftermath of October 7th, because Israelis are not savage people. They actually have said if innocent Gazans have been hurt or they've been shot, they can actually come and get treatment in the Israeli hospitals. That's what Israel does. They were even willing to have Yasser Arafat come to the hospital when he wasn't feeling well. That's what Israel is all about. We're not savage people. We don't kill innocent people. We actually want to help the sick. We want to help the people
Well,
that are
war is messy though. Innocents will die. That's why a lot of this blame falls on Hamas. But there
right, but
like
they're blaming
there
the
are
Israelis.
there
They're
are
blaming the
innocent people getting
Israelis.
hurt.
That's the problem. They're blaming the Israelis for the death of these innocent, Palestinians. That's the problem. That
Yeah.
is the huge problem, and that's what's causing the indoctrination in the college campuses. Is that this whole concept of ethnic cleansing and all of that, which is BS. So that's the big issue. So that's why we have to change the narrative. We have to give the people the facts about what happened. I personally have watched the 47-minute video of what Hamas did to my people. I watched it with my father. I watched it all. I watched how they raped the women. I watched it all. And people need to see that. People need to see that to know the truth. They need to hear it. I just had a talk last night in Montgomery County, and I told the people in detail about what Hamas did to my people, and we just had dinner, we just had dessert, but I don't care, because they need to know. They need to know the truth. They need to know the truth.
I mean, a lot of people are so removed from the situation as well. Like, for example, in New York, cashless bail sounds like a good idea to these people who are far removed from, or who believe that they're far removed from crime, and then all of a sudden it's on their doorstep and people are getting acid or like boiling water thrown on them, or stabbed in the street for no reason. Now you're starting to see the effects of what cashless bail and soft on crime policies has done to New York. And I see this as kind of the same thing. They're just like, oh, it's the poor Gaza folk who are being genocided, and so we need to side with them. It's like, they're not innocent. So you be careful with who you side with, just by like this knee-jerk empathy that people have, just to jump to like, okay, they appear to be the victim right now, so I'm going to hop on their side. There's examples here in America where the left has done that over and over and over again. And as far as like the politicians that are still in, that are like the squad, they've been doing this stuff, this anti-Israel stuff for a long time. They've been flirting, playing footsie with being anti-Semitic, like legit, saying from the river to the sea, and it's all about the Benjamins. Rashida, or I guess that was Ilhan Omar tweeting that, yeah, several times over. So they've been flirting with this for a long time, and again, a lot of the Jewish people decided that the left-wing party was their party, so they've been voting for this over and over again. And I don't see how they could possibly now still vote left, because the left is becoming more and more totalitarian, more and more like communists. And with the way that seems to work, is that the Jews are targeted first. I don't know why, but all throughout history, that seems to be what it is. The Jews are always targeted first, and then it becomes like a complete racial breakdown, like we were talking about earlier. But yeah, this has been a long time coming, as far as our own representatives being anti-Israel, anti-Jewish, and flirting with anti-Semitism with their own constituents.
Yeah, I completely agree with you 100%. That's why we really need to make sure to vet our candidates that are trying to run for office, Republican and Democrat, and we need to do everything
Yeah.
we can to move what I call the vermin out of the House, out of Congress. We need to remove Ilhan Omar. We need to remove Rashida Tlaib. We need to remove AOC and remove Bernie Sanders and remove all these people that support Hamas and support these terrorists. It's a real problem. We have a senator here in Maryland, Chris Van Hollen. He's a huge anti-Semite, and the reason he is because he's getting money from J Street, and J Street is a huge anti-Semitic group. And I encourage people to go through the federal elected officials in Congress to go through their FEC reports. It is public record. You can go through anybody's FEC report and see who has donated to them. And that's what's really, really important. You really want to see where the money is coming from and where the motive is, because you listen to a Chris Van Hollen, you're like, why is he so anti-Semitic? Why is he siding with Hamas? Why does he hate the Jews so much? Oh, it's because he's getting money funneled by an anti-Semitic group, J Street. Oh, okay, I get it now. So, and then unfortunately, these, Chris Van Hollen starts to believe the rhetoric that he's saying, which is even more sick and more sad.
Well, yeah. Once you start selling your soul and once you start saying things that you don't believe in, the more you say them, the more you will actually believe it. It doesn't matter how strong-willed you are corrupting your mind, body, and soul when you speak untruths, or when you are saying something that you were told to say, as opposed to actually coming to your own conclusion and saying what you believe to be true. Those are very different things. And when you corrupt your language, you corrupt your thoughts, you corrupt your soul. And it happens over time, and it will happen to everybody. It doesn't matter who you are. If you are sold your soul for money, it will. I mean, you're corrupted, and you'll lean that way regardless of how strong-willed you think you are.
Yeah,
So
that's why I only work with people that are not bought and paid for. I work with people that stick to their principles and their hardcore beliefs. And I warn people, if you do get elected and you go to Congress, these are the things and the people that you need to be weary of, because they will try, they'll dangle a buttload of money in front of your face. And if you touch even a dime of it, they own you. So you have to be very, very careful, who you talk to when you go to DC, because DC does change you. It does change you as a politician. It changes
absolutely.
It changes you as a human being. And that's why I educate all of my candidates that I work with. Please, for the love of God, when you get elected and go to Congress, just stay who you are. Stay true to who you are. Do not go against your principles and hardcore beliefs.
Look at Mike Johnson, for instance.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think the deep state has a way of compromising people that we don't know about.
Oh yeah,
because it happens over and over again.
Yeah,
but hear me out.
John Fetterman.
Hear me out.
We call him, the I don't know what he is. I don't think he's a real John Fetterman. It's like he's loving Israel. He wants to close the border. Like, who is this guy?
He's trying to be the antithesis to what people think the Democratic Party is, so they can appeal to both demographics and say, we're going to do what we're always going to do, but we're going to say these things so that when people challenge us, it'll look like we're both. It's the same thing I opened. AOC's did the same thing. Campuses accountable.
Is he breaking up for you? Is it just for me? Is my internet bad?
Oh, Eddie.
Okay. So it's not just me. I was like, shoot, I don't know if this is my internet or not.
Continue. I'll be right back.
Oh, I feel bad. Oh, I'm actually reading the comments. I'll say Annette. She said this all started back when Obama was in office. I agree with her. Do you remember how he treated Netanyahu? Yeah, he treated him like crap. He basically told him to, I'm eating lunch right now. Wait till I'm finished with lunch, coming through the side door, not the front door. And Obama is actually, he brought the Muslim Brotherhood into the White House, which opened up a vacuum for the Arab Spring. So this administration is literally, Obama 3.0. And it's very true. And the Taliban is stronger now than ever. ISIS, or AK ISIL, I call it ISIS, is stronger now than ever, because this is Obama 3.0. And that's what people need to understand. And I've said to these, pro-Hamas people, why don't you go hang out with the Taliban? Why don't you hang out with Hezbollah and see if those are the people that you like? Let's see if they welcome you with open arms. Let's see.
Did you see that viral video? Did you see that viral video going around of that what do I call them? A transvestite? Or just I don't know what's going to get us banned because I know that we're on YouTube. So
member of the trans community. Let's just
a
keep
member
it
of
there.
the trans community reading to a bunch of kids, and he was making them say "Free Palestine, Free Palestine."
Yeah, I did see that. I was like, what the heck? Yeah,
I was like, you know what? Please sign up to go over there and just see what they do to you.
Yeah,
you'll be thrown off of the first roof that they find.
Yeah,
it is insane.
Like they had the Queers for Palestine movement. Like go to
I love that one.
that. Go
I love
to
that
Gaza
one.
and say that. Go to Hezbollah and do that crap. Go to the Taliban. I'll say it in Yiddish. In Yiddish, the word gay is fegela. What the fegelas should do is go to Israel, because Tel Aviv has the biggest gay pride parade in the world, and Tel Aviv actually welcomes Jewish gays and Christian gays. That's, if you want to really, support a group as a fegela, as a queer, as a gay, go to Israel, because they have a huge pride parade for you. But you try doing that in with Hezbollah and the Taliban, like you said, they'll throw you over the first bridge, the first building, and they don't care.
No, they'll either stone them to death or they'll throw them off the first building. And I mean, that's a guarantee. That's why you don't see transvestites there, or I don't know what to call them. Yeah, I'm lost for words here.
You don't see people in the trans community there.
Transitional people. There we go. So we don't get banned. Transitional people. They're going through a transitional phase.
Yeah. So
transgesters.
Transgesters.
I don't know what's going to get us banned. That might get us banned. I'm not sure.
I don't know. Here, but let me put it like this. Every opinion espoused on the Patriots Prayer podcast is that of the God that we serve. And we have every right, per our First Amendment and our Christian belief and or Judaistic belief, to have an opinion that aligns with the religion that we subscribe to. That is our disclaimer.
There we go.
So if I disagree with their lifestyle, it's okay. Because that is in as much my right as it is theirs to have that lifestyle. And
they have I know you go by the libertarian approach, Eddie. You have the God-given right to do whatever you want with your life, provided you do not take that right away from another.
Exactly, because if not, then the only other person who draws that line or distinction is the government, and then we're in big trouble. We're all in big trouble.
No.
So if we don't say that our rights, even if you don't believe in God forbid, I hope you do, but even if you don't believe in God, I would say always be grateful for those who do, because if it wasn't for those who do and designing a system around the fact that there is a God, then your rights would derive from men, and men can change their mind like that. And just like Ronald Reagan said, a government big enough to give you everything you need is a government big enough to take everything you have. So
this is a conversation that I have quite frequently on Twitter with people who have a fundamental misunderstanding of where our rights come from. They basically say that the government grants rights, or rights are made like agreements between people, and then the government just like says that, because their argument is always, well, around the world you don't have rights, and it's like, no, your rights are infringed upon. We have rights because we exist. We have rights because we were born, because we were once a fertilized egg and then grew in a womb to be born into the world, and we have had rights since that fertilization moment. And I don't understand how, like, I really try to get this across to people that anything the government does, like, it is their duty to protect and preserve our rights, not infringe upon them. But people nowadays are so eager to take others' rights away. And I think this has to do with being godless and Marxist a bit. But they're so eager to take rights away because they don't believe in God and they believe that they have the authority to. And that is,
Right.
it's becoming more and more common. It's kind of freaking me out
No,
because,
you're
I mean,
100%
that's,
correct. And that's George Soros' mission. That is his
yeah.
mission, to infiltrate weak governments and to push socialism, communism, Marxist ideals into your weak government and say to we the people, this is how it should be now. This is the way that you should behave. This is the way that you should act. And if you're not in line with us, you'll be destroyed. And that's not that goes completely against the Constitution. That is not what our forefathers wrote. That is not what our forefathers wanted. I'm sure our forefathers are spinning in their graves right now.
If everyone remembers the book To Kill a Mockingbird,
Yeah.
there was a moral lesson in there. There was a moral imperative in there. And the imperative is that let's just call him Jim before someone has my head on a platter. Jim in the book, he was a man who was accused wrongfully of a crime that he didn't commit, that a white man actually committed, but because he was on trial and the trial of his peers, and his peers weren't really his peers, they were a tribe of 12 white men who were naturally not going to convict the white man who was truly guilty of the crime. So he got railroaded, right? This reminds me a lot of what's going on right now with Donald Trump. Right now, he's not getting a fair trial. He's not getting a fair shake. And what did Stalin say? Show me the man, I'll show you the crime. Right. So this is what they're doing. They didn't actually go.
I don't know if that was Stalin. I'm going to fact check that real quick.
Please do. And he said, what they say. So if you're investigating a crime and it leads you to a specific individual, so be it. But they started with Trump and then started looking for the crime. This is not a third world dictatorship. Letitia James ran on this. And did you get it?
Yeah,
Alexa,
it was Lavrenti Beria. I don't know how to pronounce the name. Lavrentii. Lavrenti.
That's what I said.
Lavrenti. Well, he was a secret police chief in Joseph Stalin's reign. So yeah, you were right of the era, but it wasn't Joseph Stalin. It was one of his secret police chiefs that said that. So yeah,
well,
you were like 90% on.
Okay. Well, I was in the realm.
Yeah, you were right there.
But that's what they're doing right now, though. They're running on getting people. Letitia James is running on getting people. Did you hear about NY213? It's a quarantine law that they passed, and that they can actually quarantine you even if you don't have a disease or you don't have COVID or you don't have any of those things. They can just show up and without swabbing you and making sure you're positive of anything, quarantine you at a place that they're choosing for a time that's indiscriminate. They get to choose that too. And there's no criteria for what, you have to do to be released from that either. So it's kind of written, the law's written very vaguely. So it could be, and the argument was when they're fighting to repeal it right now, and the argument is that it can be used as a way to silence political discourse, people that disagree with them. And very could easily do that. I'm so glad that Tennessee is coming to its senses and banning the kidnapping practice that is put in place, like where Maurice is, and in California, AB 665, they have these laws that protect kidnappers if they take your kid from another state to take them to these places that affirm their gender, and then they protect the kidnapper from prosecution as well because he did it for that reason. Right?
I would say affirm their delusion in what they believe their gender is, just because I don't like really saying those words exactly, because it kind of gives credence to their argument when gender is not real. There's no such thing as gender. It is a state of mind. You can if you can change your gender on a whim, then you can change your mind on a whim. It's a state of mind. It has no bearing on reality. There's only two sexes, male and female, period, end of story. Y'all need to get over this insanity that you guys have created and allowed. I would say allowed is just the fact that you're telling kids that men can be women and women can be men. That is impossible. That can never happen. It never has in human history. It doesn't matter the surgeries you do or the hormones that you inject, screwing up any person that takes them. It's never happened. Men cannot be women. It is impossible. Women cannot be men. It is also impossible. So deal with it.
That's
Those
right.
are the facts.
You can be a masculine woman
You know,
or a feminine
my
man,
mother's-
but
yeah,
you
my
cannot
mom's a
be
school
one or the
teacher.
other.
Yeah, I was gonna say the pronoun thing. You know, my mom's a school teacher, and she's like, "Look, I'm old school. It's he, she, it. It's no like they, them. Like, what is this?" And
Yeah, they're screwing up the English
insane.
language.
That's fine. Yeah, it's insane.
So I'm going to take a break real quick and go to our sponsors. We'll be right back after these messages, guys. Stick around.
Greetings, kindred spirits. Welcome to Smoking Gun Coffee, where the essence of the land infuses every sip. It carries the spirit of reverence for the earth and its gifts. As you indulge in our carefully crafted blends, envision the dance of the winds and the whispers of ancient trees. Let each cup be a journey through time, a tribute to the harmony found in nature. Smoking Gun Coffee, a ritual of warmth, a connection to the sacred. Embrace the rich tapestry of flavors and join us in honoring the legacy of the land. Taste the spirit, savor the journey. Smoking Gun Coffee, where every cup is a celebration of our shared connection.
So if you guys go to thepatriotsprayer.com and you'll click right at the top there, it says Smoking Gun Coffee, along with all of our other sponsors. They're there. Go check them out. Use code Native Patriot, one word, Native Patriot. And I believe there's like a specific
10% off.
Yeah, you get a 10% off.
Well, I have my own line. Yeah, there's multiple brands. Well, I don't know if it's my own. Yeah, I have all my own labels. There's a Tribe of Patriots hat there as well, which is really cool. So go there, check it out. The coffee's great. I've literally only heard great things about. I mean, I only drink Smoking Gun coffee, but from all the customers and all of my followers who have bought it, they say great things. And I hear it over and over again, and they're like, "Holy crap, this is actually really good coffee." And I'm like, "Yes, I wasn't kidding. It's actually really good." It's father and son outfit down in Texas. Supports veterans. They are veterans, and they donate a substantial portion of their profits to veteran programs, including veteran suicide prevention, which is desperately needed right now because our veterans aren't even being taken care of by the government because they're prioritizing illegals over our own veterans. They're literally kicking out veterans out of hotels so that way illegals could stay in there. That's where our country's at. So if you drink coffee, buy Smoking Gun coffee because it actually does help veterans. My goodness.
I want to play a couple of clips real quick, and I want to get your take on these clips. So let's start with this one.
Yeah, I'm going well. It's getting kind of late.
Yeah.
Spoke a little bit ago. Wanted to ask you, to cooperate. We've been placed on admin leave.
Yeah.
And, we'd like to see if we can do this voluntarily, so it's been a while. So can you do that for us? And, move forward in that space, and then you can contact HR and go from there.
Could you get in contact with TK about this?
No, I'm not, I can't talk about that. I'm just here what I spoke about earlier, because if not, we'll have to call law enforcement and go in that space and
Understood.
And get trespassed and all that.
Yeah, we understand.
Okay, just trying again. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
You guys gotta leave. You guys refusing to leave?
Yes.
Okay. You first stand up.
So what you just witnessed was a sit-in at Google of employees that went into their boss's office and refused to leave until Google decided that they would no longer do business with Jewish ran companies. And they felt like that was okay. Like whatever you do in the name of social protest, you can break any law, you can make any threat. It reminds me of this girl.
You guys want to criminalize us with metal detectors? We'll see you at your house. We'll murder you.
I mean, the second part of that video always just makes me feel so good to see her crying on trial after saying such an idiotic thing to an entire council. But those people sitting in the office at Google is reminiscent of, I remember when Ronald Reagan went to UC Berkeley after they burned it down in a social protest, and Donald Trump, it's easy to conflate those two, but Ronald Reagan went down there and said, this all began the moment that you people who know better allow these kids to think that they can do whatever they want in the name of social protest. And he got up and walked out. And that's exactly what's going on today. Isn't that funny how history repeats itself?
Over and over again, man.
Yeah, that's exactly what's going on. History is repeating itself, except for one. I think there's one different distinction today that we didn't have then. At least back then, we had a national identity. We knew who we were as a country. There was no questioning it. Our children had not been indoctrinated by the educational system by that point. The Department of Education didn't exist. We didn't have, a lot of the things that we have today to make sure the government controls what's being taught. And by God, I hope that's one of the things that Donald Trump actually attacks when he gets in there. First, I want him to go after the media and find out who's paying them. I want him to investigate the media because I blame them for everything that's going wrong in this country, because they are the ones that create the optics that allow these things to happen. They are the ones not the people. They are the ones, more than the politicians, more than anyone. And second, I want him to get rid of the Department of Education. It needs to go away.
I agree with you on that. 100%. I agree with you on that. And
talking about like Vivek Ramaswamy's platform too. Like that's what he was running on. He's like, defund the FBI, the CIA, and now all this stuff would be nice. But once again, it kind of comes back to the argument that I say all the time, that Trump is a moderate. He's like middle of the road on a lot of this stuff. I don't know why everybody thinks that he's some extremist. It's like, you just wait till what comes after. Once Trump is done in office, the next guy is going to be way more right-wing and radical on dismantling government branches than Trump is. So
I tell you what, put me in there. I haven't fixed in a week. I don't care about none of their feelings. I don't give a damn.
in regards to the anti-Semitism,
I don't care about none of their feelings. There would
he freeze again.
I was just gonna. I'll make the point while he's frozen. Sorry. Is that they're trying. I have a lot of friends that are trying to get jobs, and because of when they put that they're Jewish, majority of them are not getting the jobs because they put that they're Jewish. And
really,
yep, that's happening. That's really happening. So now my friends are saying that they'll fill out their applications. They won't say they're white. They won't say they're Jewish. They'll say they're Black. They'll say they're Native American. They'll say they're Asian American to get jobs. And you can't question if the person is Black or not when they walk into the office. But the fact that they have to denounce their Judaism or denounce being white in order to get a job now is really sad. That's very sad.
The next job that I apply for, I'm definitely putting down that I'm white. Because I'm half native and half white. I don't like, I can't pass off as just being white, but I think it'd be funny to see their face.
Well, and I'm in the exact opposite of him, because I'm half native, but I look white, so I don't put native on anything. I think the next job I apply for, I'm going to be Mohammed Smith.
That's funny. Well, one of my friends who's Jewish, she wrote an article years ago with a Chabad rabbi where they actually don't consider Jewish people white. They actually consider us Black because of all the Ethiopian Jews, and we have Tunisian Jews and Iranian Jews. They're all dark skinned. So I technically, if I work for myself, but if I ever worked for someone else, I would put on a job application, I'm Black, and see where it goes.
I mean, there's also a group I just learned about this a couple months ago, but there's this big theory that Native Americans were like put here, but the real Native Americans were black people. So I
Oh
mean,
my
I think
God.
I think I think everybody. I
think
just
everyone's
learned about
black,
this theory.
but
Yeah, everybody could be black. So I don't
it could
know.
be
Just put it on the
everything.
platform. And
Have
I
you
mean, if
ever
they question it, you could just say I trans identify as black.
There
So
you
you can't
go.
question it.
Yeah. Well,
you
technically, it's the
remember
law.
Big Fat? You guys remember Big Fat Greek Wedding?
Oh
Right.
yeah, of
The movie.
course.
All right. You remember how the dad said everything was Greek?
Yeah.
Everything. I don't care what word. This is Greek word. Everything is Greek. Like, yeah, there are some folks in that community who literally think that everything is black. I even heard him say that black women hold the DNA for the entire race of every human on the face of Earth, and that's why they know that all people come from black people. And I looked it up, and it's absolutely BS. It's not
Oh
true at
yeah,
all.
there's just no way. There's no way.
You know,
There's
I have to be
separate
able to
groups
give.
of people. What the hell?
It's so ridiculous, and it's done only to sow division and make people have arguments, and that, like I told you earlier, I follow, I meme, therefore I am. I believe Maurice is a good friend of the individual who runs the account,
Hey, we're gonna have
and
her on the podcast. I don't know exactly when, but she did agree to come on, so she'll be on
yeah,
the podcast.
that's awesome. That's awesome. So
Shout out.
we were on the I was on one of her posts, and it was a person from back in my neck of the woods, and where you're at, over there currently as well. And this person is in Parkville, and in the parking lot, this person was shot down, like shot his girlfriend in cold blood. And I said that you will never be able to fix this culture until the culture is willing to admit that there's a problem. And the people in the comment, just go take a look. Anyone could find it post, but they went ballistic thinking I was talking about race. And not one time did I say the word race, not even once. And they still just don't get it. They still don't get it. They have to be victims. Everyone in that thread who said race or said domestic violence, all those other things they were trying to conflate. Every one of you guys are racists. Let me just put it out there, right there, like that. Every single one of you. You're missing the point. Culture transcends your skin. It transcends your gender. It transcends everything. It's culture. One guy says, I looked at them both and they were running around the parking lot. How could you tell what culture there was? Like, culture, I'm looking at a culture of a man that would pull a gun out in broad daylight and gun another person down in cold blood and walk away with no emotion about it. That is a culture. That is a culture.
Wasn't it his woman too, or like it?
Well, his ex woman,
Yeah.
which makes him even weaker because we can get into that whole thing too. But the deal is just like people that are the fact that identity politics is played so often, it makes it to where the truth can, if we're talking about an issue where it has to deal with a specific race or gender or whatever the case is, like they act like you cannot talk about that because you don't belong to the race for whom you're commenting, when in fact, unless we have the conversation, just like Candace Owens, Thomas Sowell, Ben Carson, the Supreme Court Justice, what's his name? Clarence Thomas, unless and they all echo the same sentiment, along with people like Louis Farrakhan as well, echo the same sentiment that, you have to start taking responsibility and having fathers in the home and fixing the culture and all of these things. But it's only racist when I say it. And then it spins off to the point where we forgot what we were originally talking about. And what we're talking about is making society better. Ghettos can be paradises if the people that live in them don't suck. I mean, literally, it all depends on the people that live where you are. Our communities are made up of people, not bricks and mortar. They're people. So if the people are right, the community is good, and it doesn't matter where you live. it can be paradise. But until we start loving the people in our community and our neighbors and helping and trying to make our communities better, instead of saying, what can my community provide for me, or making excuses on why you haven't made it further in life because some faceless, nameless man in the ether behind an iron curtain somewhere must be holding you back and someone owes you something. It's that sentiment.
Now, I mean, we lost religion. We lost. I mean, look at the marriage rates before we took religion out of everything in the Supreme Court decision of 1962 or 60. Yeah, I think it was 1962. They basically decided that they're going to remove God from all institutions government related because, and I mean, divorce rates started going down at that point. But the marriage rate among Black Americans before that point was like 70-something%. It was crazy high.
Oh, you're talking about the Great American Society Act of 67 by LBJ, I believe. And that was when they told them they couldn't have a father in the home or else they would lose all their benefits, all the entitlements, rent.
No. So that I would imagine contributed as well. But I'm talking about the Supreme Court decision of 1962. Where I'll have to look it up again. It's been a little while since I looked into it, but I know that that's when the Supreme Court decided to separate. So this is where they separated church and state, right? And they made it official because before then we had religion in school. And not just religion. We had Christianity. Judeo-Christian values is what made this country great, and we've lost that. Yes, because since then, everything's gone down. Marriage rates have gone down. And when marriage rates go down, when people are raised in fatherless homes, crime goes up. And also wealth transfer goes way down. So kids are being raised in broken homes. They don't receive anything from their parents because their parents are barely getting by because they separated. And I mean, without the nuclear family, this country falls apart. Without God, there's nothing keeping that nuclear family together.
That's very true. That is 100% true. And we see this now in my generation, young people between the ages of 25 to 40, they're not getting married. And the divorce rates are very high. They're not having as many kids as we did back in the day. Because we don't have those Judeo-Christian values, and because society's saying, it's okay not to get married, it's okay, to not have kids. And AOC said, don't get married, don't have kids, we're all going to be dead in 12 years. So because of, global warming and all that crap that she pushed. So it gets to people's heads. It really gets to people's heads. And it's very
Marxism Marxism is sweeping the land for every institution. I mean, even our churches. Believe it or not, I'm looking at a story right now where a pastor in a conference in Springville, Missouri, he went on stage. His name is Mark Driscoll. I saw the video footage, and he went on and they opened the church up with men dancing on stripper poles, taking their shirts off.
What?
And then yes, they did. And then when he disagreed with it, when he went up on stage, when it was his time to talk, because it was a conference, and he called them out on it. They kicked him off stage. Off stage. He was the only Christian in the crowd. I'm sorry to say, he is the only Christian in the crowd because he was the only one with enough guts to say it. And I'm going to try my best to get this man on the podcast. His name is Mark Driscoll. I'm going to be reaching out every way I know how to get him on, because it's just like when I went into the UMC or the United Methodist.
Hey, you're going to have to send me that. You're going to have to send me that video, Eddie, so I can tweet that out as well, because it sounds like I want to talk to him as well, because you're right. There are so many Christians now. I mean, when the churches all over the place are hanging up gay pride flags and things like that, they're of the world, and they're trying to recruit church members so they can, I guess, continue getting funding. But instead of just preaching the word of God for the sake of preaching the word of God, which is one of the main problems that I developed with many of the churches around me before, or I guess this was after the government lockdowns of 2020, when the government locked everything down, and the churches were like, okay, all right, you're going to take our tax exemption or our funding away. All right, we won't preach the word of God anymore. We'll just do it online. You know, that really, really bugged me, and it made me think that they're all false prophet, or they're false teachers, and I don't want to be any part of it.
Yep.
So I
Well,
try to be
And
very
that was why
careful
I
with it.
stopped.
I have issues when I go to synagogue because the rabbis get very political. I was at Rosh Hashanah, and I was Rosh Hashanah service, which is our Jewish New Year, and they're combating Moms for Liberty and saying they want to ban the books. But it's like, well, what? Let's look at the books that Moms for Liberty is combating. They're combating books like Genderqueer. They're combating books that push CRT. They're combating books that are being taught in elementary school, and it's all about sex and incest. I mean, I never read those books at age 6 and 7 and 8 years old. If I had
Nor
children,
should
I
you.
would want them to read those books at all. And the rabbis are saying that Moms for Liberty wants to ban, we shouldn't have a ban of books. But again, read the books that they're not banning them. They're calling out this disgusting, whoever wrote these things. It's such explicit detail of how to have sex, an explicit detail of incest between, I don't even want to say it. It's just disgusting. And I have nieces and nephews that are 9 years old, 8 years old, 4 years old. My sister actually homeschools her children because she doesn't want her children being taught these things in public school. And that's what Moms for Liberty is about.
I want to show you guys something that I've never showed anyone before. And I don't know why I never thought to do it, but since it just came up, here, I'm going to show you something that's going to blow your mind. I mean, in all honesty, this should absolutely make you question.
I don't know if I can see it.
That's not it. Hold on here. I'm sorry.
Okay. Like, what is it?
That's not it. Give me just a second, because this is pretty wild, and I went through a lot and to do this story and expose these people for who they are, and I'm going to be putting together a lot more of it. But take a look. So here, what you're looking at. Why isn't it showing you the darn pages itself? It's just showing me the. Give me a second. I mean, this is worth waiting. I'm sorry, but here, let me just do the entire screen, and this way it works. There. All right. Now, what you're looking at, and I'll zoom in so everyone knows that I can't zoom. Damn it. All right. So there, zoom. There I am zooming. Okay. This is communication I had with the United Methodist Church. And what it is this says, meanwhile, a matter of scripture and the real legitimate differences between the interpretation of these matters and sound arguments, right? No, hold on. I digress. Go backward. The latter is not equivalent. Homosexual practice is sinful, right? He says it's sinful. That's how he starts off. But then, just keep reading. The legitimate different or interpretations and matters between sound arguments. It may be obvious to you that the majority of the United Methodists that push homosexual relations and even context of monogamous marriage would be simply sinful. It is simply not the case that the interpretation is obviously across all Christians. There are a growing number of denominations worldwide that authorize same-sex marriage.
Oh, do you
You
get
freeze
out
again.
No. It's funny because like when I
Eddie, get better internet.
No, when it's he and I, like sometimes it cuts out with me. So I'm like, oh no.
I'm
someone
pretty
said
sure he
this
cut
is-
out entirely.
Someone said this is the worst comedy podcast I've ever seen. I mean, we're talking about combating anti-Semitism. It's like it's not comedy, dude.
Yeah,
okay.
I don't know. Trolls will be trolls.
I know.
It is what it is.
But going back to
they're saying, I'm sorry, they're saying that the term homosexual in Corinthians 6:9 is misinterpreted. That homosexuality is not sinful, and that I walked in and I wore a camera right here.
Oh, I think you froze again, Eddie. Oh no. Well, like I was saying before, at my synagogue for Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, the rabbis get very political, and they say, unfortunately, they say stuff that is not true. They said that my governor, Ron DeSantis, banned the Diary of Anne Frank from school, which was not true. What happened was somebody did a caricature of the Diary of Anne Frank, and the caricature was very explicit. The caricature was very explicit, and it said that Anne Frank was a lesbian and that she was having lesbian ideals. Like, that is not what the Diary of Anne Frank is about. That's not what the story of Anne Frank was about. So it's things like this that are being infiltrated into our churches, into our synagogues, that these people of the pulpit, they're supposed to be quoting the Bible directly, and instead they're putting their own political bias into their sermons. And it's a problem.
Yeah.
It says in the Torah, man shall not lay with man. It says it right in the Torah. So, when they put their political bias into it, or they're trying to be politically correct, how do I say this? It takes away from what the Bible says, but also it's teaching our young people something that is not written in the Bible. And that, again, is going back to our Judeo-Christian values, how we need to go back to our Judeo-Christian values, and we need to teach
and
the
stand
Bible
up for them.
Right.
That's
exactly.
That's the main part. What is it? Revelation 3:16, or is it 3:15? Don't be.
I have to look it up. Sorry, I don't know off the top of my
head. Well, it's basically.
I apologize. This has not happened to this degree ever.
It always happens
last
when
time
I'm on with you, Eddie. It's me.
Yeah, it happens whenever. It's weird. Whenever I have Alexandra on, this happens. And look at any of our other podcasts. It does not happen. It does not happen.
Sorry.
I'm going to be contacting StreamYard and complaining my ass off because it's not my internet connection. I'm doing other things, and I can see my internet connection is solid. And so this is StreamYard, and I'm going to complain. But hang
on, I was about to quote Revelation. Is that I know your deeds, that you are neither cold nor hot. I wish you were either one or the other. So because you are lukewarm, neither neither hot nor cold, I'm about to spit you out of my mouth. Yeah, exactly. So that's what we've been facing is not only people having their own interpretation, their own spin on things, the preachers, that is, but also not being able to stand up for our Christian faith and just kind of rolling over and allowing people to steamroll Christianity in general, which has taken away all our values. But Eddie, you kind of broke up right at the beginning of that, so I don't know what that whole thing was about. Like you froze fairly early on.
So what I was saying was that they are literally saying that the interpretations in the Bible that talk about homosexuality are wrong. That the Bible doesn't. That they're saying that the Bible does not say that homosexuality is wrong. Now, Alexa, read Corinthians 6:9 for me, please.
Getting a selection from Eddie's Audible library. Resuming Bible stories for kids.
Oh, never mind. Alexa, never mind. I thought you would actually read it because I have it on audio and I listen to it all the time. I actually am a Christian on, off the air, and otherwise. But it says that the kingdom of heaven shall not be inherited by liars, fornicators, adulterers, nor homosexual perverts. And it does not. It literally says homosexual perverts. So when they say that the Bible does not speak out against homosexuality, it does it again in Romans. And if you look back in the Old Testament, the tale of Sodom and Gomorrah was one of the reasons why God destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. And so when they tell you that, it's a falsehood, it's a fallacy. But we knew these delusions would come in the last days. And what they're doing is they're trying to take the last stronghold of people who will oppose their agenda, which are Christians, because I would rather die. And I know people say that, and they say it so loosely, but I actually mean it. I would rather you kill me than you have me twist my religion and my faith in God to the extent of me saying I want to be accepted by the world, so I'll take the world and mix it into my beliefs of God so that I'm liked by you and them. I'd rather not. At that point, what's the point of living? I don't see any point of living without God. I don't. That's why we're on such a mission here. That's why that I won't mince words when it comes to the truth. That's why I don't censor or filter myself with my opinions and how I feel about topics or subjects. It's because that there's nothing you can do to me. Either I'm going to be here saying it or I'm going to be with my God. I'm in one of two places. So you even if you kill me, you lose, because when the wheat, like you said, when the wheat thresh and falls to the ground, 100 more grow up in its place. So I challenge anyone out there who says that they are a God believer and they're Christian, that are standing by right now as these things that we've talked about right now are going on throughout this country. And if you are standing by and saying nothing and doing nothing, yet you say you believe in God, I question you. I call you out. You're either a fake or your actions have made your faith dead, because faith without works is dead. It's dead. It's not that you have to do something physically to be saved. That comes by faith in Jesus Christ. But when you have that faith, it provokes an action in you, and you have an inability to sit still while you're watching injustice take place in front of your face.
No, I mean, I did 4 rallies in support of Israel after October 7th. And a couple of family members of mine and my friends were like, why are you doing this? Like, you're putting yourself at risk. Like, you're making yourself a target. And I'm like, if I sit back and do nothing, they win. I was not going to sit back and allow these pro-Hamas protesters to change the narrative and to hurt my people and to hurt me. And thank God that every single rally that I've done in support of Israel, I have had massive support behind me. And thank God there hasn't been any altercations. And thank God I have law enforcement by my side as well. But I'm smart enough to know, my surroundings. I'm smart enough to know where I should do these events and rallies so it doesn't put other people in harm's way. But again, if you sit back and do nothing, if you allow these pro-Hamas people to control the narrative, you are complicit. And I wasn't going to stand by. I was not going to stand by, and I'm not going to stand by now. And Mark Levin, he was at CPAC Shabbat with me, and he said that Jewish people especially need to rise up, and we need to stand up, and we need to say that this is wrong, and we need to combat these pro-Hamas people every single turn. Mm-hmm. Just like we need to go on campus at Columbia University, NYU, Emerson College, wherever they're having these Gaza encampments and these pro-Hamas rallies on campus, and we need to form in numbers and combat them. We cannot sit back and watch this happen. And I wholeheartedly agree with him.
Attacks on Israel and attacks on Jews are attacks on Christians. They're one and the same. They're one and the same. There are no separation. When Peter was brought to the centurion's house, and he saw the vision of the white blanket falling down on the 4 corners of the earth, and God explained to him that meant that they're grafted in, and that we are all clean, and that he was able to eat with Gentiles when that was taboo. Prior to that, it was a dawning of a new age. And I don't know if a lot of Christians realize this, but there are a lot of things, a lot of traditions that come along with being Christian that Americanized Christianity just overlooks. You just said it's Passover, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. There are several festivals and things that take place, that the unleavened bread, all of these different festivals that lead up and throughout the year. And I hope that people realize that their Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, celebrated each and every one of those things, and the people that he brought into the fold, and the people that the disciples and the apostles brought into the fold also celebrated every one of those things. So my question, and I rail against American Christianity all the time because I call it like Christianity light. Why aren't we doing that? That's my thing. Why aren't we doing that? I looked into the Judaism roots of Christianity, and so that we understand that all of those things in Christianity that were done in Judaism prior to the coming of Jesus Christ being the Messiah were all foreshadowings of Christ himself. So every one of those festivals, feasts, Shabbat, and all those different, things that they're all something there that talk about the roots of who we are and what we believe, if we really do believe it. So if you really believe that, as I do, then you're not going to stand by idly and allow these things to happen, because an assault on Israel and an accost on the Jewish people is an accost on God, and as a result is a cost on you as a Christian. They're one and the same.
Yeah, that's a good way to end it, Eddie.
Our Christian brothers and sisters need to work with the Jewish people, and we need to combat this together.
So I wanted to bring this up because I wanted you to be able to speak to it before we got out of here, because you got an event coming up, and I want to show people that
Thank you.
event.
So this is a very important event. So Stephen Moore, he is the economic advisor for President Trump. He worked on the Trump tax cuts with President Trump and Larry Kudlow, and he's still working with President Trump today. So he's coming specially to this event in Maryland to talk about the economy, to talk about how we can survive this Biden economy, but also how we need President Trump back, because the Trump tax cuts actually end December 2025. So that's why we need President Trump back in office, so we can extend these Trump tax cuts. Another element to my event to the event, I should say, it's not mine, it's an event of people, because I had many other people involved in the event besides me. Another element to the event is we are actually having a Turning Point USA chapter from Towson University come and speak at the event as well. So we are involving our young students to come to this event because they want to learn about the economy. They're either business majors or economic majors. And I want them to come because whatever Stephen Moore says at this event will go towards college credits, because they need to know about the economy. They need to know about business. Maybe one day they'll become investors themselves, and we need to prepare them for the future. And also a third element is we are adding about what's going on the college campuses with combating antisemitism. So the event is May 2nd. It's a Thursday night from 6:30 to 9:30 in Baltimore County in Timonium at a restaurant called Riley's Oyster, which is very famous and renowned. A lot of famous politicians have eaten there and spoken there. So on May 2nd, in the middle of the afternoon, Towson University is actually, they're going to be voting in support of or against a BDS resolution. BDS stands for Boycott, Divest, and Sanction, which is an anti-Semitic group. And anytime you have BDS,
my wife's alma mater, by the way, my wife's alma mater is Towson.
It's a lot of people's alma mater. So thank you for attending. But so, obviously when you have BDS on your campus, that is what's causing a lot of the anti-Semitism is happening on campus. So I have been working nonstop with the Towson University Hillel and Towson University to make sure that this resolution does not pass. So that's why it's very important that students attend my event so they can talk about the experience of the resolution. They can talk about their experience on college campuses, because Turning Point is a very conservative group that was started by Charlie Kirk. So these are conservative students that are on a liberal college campus, and they're going to talk about their experience being on a college campus and dealing with the liberal college campus, and dealing with the anti-Semitism on these college campuses. We have a lot of discounts for this event. We have student discount pricing. We have a 2-for-1 deal for adults. We have a 10% off general admission with a promo code I can give out privately. There are many, many ways for people to come to this event without breaking the bank. Like I said, we have heavily discounted this event because we want people to come to this event. We want people to experience this event. We want people to meet Stephen Moore, to talk to him, to meet college students from Towson University and other universities, and feel safe. And so we encourage anybody that has kids, grandchildren that are looking at colleges to come to this event. And again, it's Thursday night, May 2nd, 6:30 to 9:30. At Riley's Oyster in Timonium, which is in Baltimore County. Please come. This is going to be a great event, and we have people coming from all over the country, all over the state for this event. And we are so happy that Stephen Moore is giving up his time to come at the aftermath of the collapse of the Francis Scott Key Bridge, which has hurt and will hurt the economy of Maryland. So that's why it's very important for him to come and talk about the economy in Maryland as well, because the collapse of that bridge is going to hurt the economy in Maryland. And it's going to take at least 4 or 5 years for that bridge to be rebuilt. And Eddie, you and I talked about this. I mean, 35,000 people cross that bridge on a daily basis. I was one of those people. So
Lots
it
of
really
food and
hurts.
supplies as well.
Oh yeah. It's food and supplies that are going to be hurt. And, you know, it's the trade, it's the import, it's the export. I mean, this was a big port, and now they don't have a bridge. So he's going to talk about that, how we can rebuild, even though we don't have this bridge, how Marylanders can rebuild, how we, the people of this great United States, can rebuild with a Joe Biden economy. That's why it's so important that Trump gets back in office. That's why it's so important that we extend the Trump tax cuts and we get our country back. You know, that's what we need. We need to take our country back.
She said to me before we came on, and it made my blood boil because I didn't hear this, and I'm going to make some phone calls when we're done. I'm probably going to make some phone calls back home tomorrow. I have a friend who actually can relay message to the mayor in Baltimore as well. And what she said was that they were talking about renaming the bridge of Francis Scott Key to something else immediately upon
they were going to rename it to like a Thurgood Marshall or Harriet Tubman, like an African American figure.
That would piss me off. Something. Then I would want the bridge to fall. You know, at that point, you know, fuck the bridge. I don't care. I just said it.
You made it an hour and 41 minutes, Eddie.
They were trying to cut history. That's what they were trying to do. It's
listen,
the Francis
Scott Key, he wrote the national anthem. You don't get more American than that.
Yeah.
You cannot. I went to Francis Scott Key Middle.
Most people don't know the national anthem is 4 stanzas. Star Spangled Banner is 4 stanzas. A lot of people don't know that.
I went to Francis Scott Key Elementary School, right on the other side of that bridge.
They tried to change the name of that too, by the way.
Oh my God. I learned to fish under that bridge at Fort Armstead. I mean, there's so much of my childhood that was spent right there where that happened. And who knows? These people are so woke, and woke people are absolute idiots. They are idiots. I hope natural selection.
Stupid, dirty commies.
Yes. Yes.
Well, I was telling Eddie that the NAACP, they voted unanimously to change the name of the bridge. And I'm just bored. Like, and you know what? The funny thing is, the NAACP originally was created by Jews. Jews actually created the NAACP, and then of course it changed off to what it is today. So it's very interesting that the NAACP took this opportunity to say, oh, Francis Scott Key was a slave owner. We can't keep a slave owner's name on a bridge. We're going to change it to the Harriet Tubman Bridge, the Frederick Douglass Bridge, the Thurgood Marshall Bridge. You know, why don't they?
Those are all good people, but make something else.
Well, why didn't they change it to Clarence Thomas Bridge? What's wrong with him? They won't put his name on it. They got to put, somebody else's name on it.
No, Francis Scott Key needs to remain as Francis Scott.
I agree.
Bridge.
Yeah. So the aftermath of that, and I was telling Eddie, is that I worked with the Delegate Bob Long in District 6, and he actually pushed legislation to codify the law so that the name it's actually originally it was originally named the Francis Scott Key Memorial Bridge. That's actually the true name, the Francis Scott Key Memorial Bridge. So
we always refer to it as Key Bridge.
Right. So he codified the law to make it permanent that the name of the bridge will not change, and he got it pushed through right like the last second before session ended, because session just ended in Annapolis, and he got it through. And the guy who heads up the Annapolis, the president, he said, "Don't worry, we're not changing the name of the bridge." So right. God bless him. God bless him. God bless the people that fought to keep the name of the bridge. Because I had 2 petitions out, and I was telling Eddie that Facebook blocked me for distributing those 2 petitions. I was cut off of Facebook for 3 days straight. Felt like a lifetime. And I had to email people the petition, privately, and I only got about 70 signatures. I would have gotten more if freaking Facebook didn't like throw me off. But we still
join X. Get on X.
I did put it on X. I did put it on X too. But I have, unfortunately, I have a lot more.
Where can people follow you?
So they can follow me on Facebook, Alexandra Levine. I am on X. It's at Alexandra Levi 20. That's how Twitter did it. So Alexandra Levi 20. I'm on YouTube, Alexandra Levine. Instagram at ARLevine85. You can find me. I'm not hard to
So,
find.
Alexandra, I got one last thing before we get out of here. We're going to be going over to our locals to chat for a couple of minutes when we get out of here. So for all the tribe of Patriots guys watching, we're going to be going over to the locals here in just a second. So, but before we get out of here, we got some folks that are watching, I'm sure, that are like anti-Zionists and they don't understand what Zionism is, and they think, just like what Maurice was talking about, that the people in Palestine are no different than the Native Americans and all this, and they're Jew haters of all kinds. And trust me, they watch. So what do you want to say to them? You don't have any muzzle. Don't muzzle yourself. Go for it.
Oh, you're talking to me? I mean, again, education is the key. Like I said, I'm a big proponent of pushing full Holocaust and full Israel education in all 50 states. And it has to start from the elementary level all the way to the college level. I'm trying to push at the college level, and I've been talking to the Israeli Prime Minister about this, to find a way for these college kids to see the entire 47-minute video of what Hamas did to my people, because they need to see it. They need to see what happened. They need to see the truth. And
can you get me a copy of it?
I'm sorry?
Can you get me a copy of it?
I'm gonna try because Israel right now, they sent out a few links of it. They're not really fully showing the footage, just because it is so heinous. And they don't want it cut and spliced, to make it like they're the bad guys. But if you are in touch with Rabbi Shmuley Boteach, he saw the full video. He could probably get you a copy. But it's sick and it's sad what happened. And me personally, as a young person, I went to the Holocaust Museum when I was 7 years old. It made me the woman I am today. When you put atrocities in front of these people's faces and you pound it to them and you pound it to them and you pound it to them, it does eventually affect them. And they actually do start to see the light. And again, they have to see the truth in front of them. They really, really do. And that's, that is my biggest success that I've had with changing people's minds and changing their mindset and getting them to vote Republican, is they have to see the truth right in front of them. And you continue to pound the truth right in front of them. That's really the only way that their mind will change. And I pound the narrative. I don't back down. When I see somebody writing anti-Semitic rhetoric, I screen capture it, and I send it out, and I keep sending it out, and I keep sending it out. And I'm like, this person is saying this person's saying that, this person's running for political office and they're saying this. You can't back down on the true facts. You have to just keep pushing it out there and pushing it out there and pushing it out there. That's why I will continue to call for these big Jewish groups that have a lot of money, even the big business Jewish men that pull their funding away from these liberal colleges. I have been contacting them and saying, put your money into the Jewish, into the conservative Jewish groups, put it into the ZOA, put it into Jexading, put the money into the Jewish National Fund or the JCRC of Greater Washington. These are organizations that have been combating anti-Semitism from the beginning. Take your billions and put it into something that actually will make a difference. You took the billions out of the universities. Now put your billions into something that will actually make a difference. Because we do have the money, to make a difference. We really do. But if we don't have the proper people surrounding us and working with us, then it goes nowhere. That's why we need the evangelicals. We need, any Christians that support Israel. We need Christians United for Israel. We need the International Faith Alliance with Christians and Jews. We need all of these big organizations to work with us and to combat this hatred. We can do it. They should not be afraid to do it. We have bigger voices than them. We have the money like they do, even more money than they do, to combat this. And we cannot be afraid.
All right. And with that, as usual, you guys already know the silent majority. You need to stop being silent and stand your ground. We'll see you next time on the Patriots Prayer podcast, guys.
God bless you guys. Take care.
My people of this country and we're under attack. They banning us, they cancel us for speaking the facts. If you man enough, come stand with us, take USA back. And every time we pull up, all you're gonna see is American flags. American flags. My people of this country and we're under attack. They banning us, they cancel us for speaking the facts. If you man enough, come stand with us, take USA back. And every time we pull up, all you're gonna see is American flags. American flags. American flags. And every time we pull up, all you're gonna see is American.
Eddie, why are we still here?
Because it's not working.
It's not ending. You want me to end it? Hey guys, we're back, but we're leaving. See you later.